1865 Match Report.
Hello and welcome to the 1865 Match Report. We're recording this the morning after Forest lost the first leg of the last 16 Europa League knockout tie to Midtjylland 1-0, our second defeat to them this season. I've got a few things to say about the atmosphere, both human and meteorological, but at the City Ground last night. But before we get to that, I'm joined by Tom Newton. Tom, they were pretty physical, weren't they?
They were, but we knew what was going to expect from them anyway. They're not a great footballing side, but like you say, they're physical. And we played them in October, so it's not like they're an unknown kind of thing. And yeah, they basically we had a lot of the ball, but they basically bullied us at times. We lost quite a lot of the physical battles, but like I said, we should have known what was going to happen from Midtjylland because what they lack in footballing ability. I'm not saying they're bad players, but obviously the players what we've got on paper were better than footballing wise, but physicality we just didn't contest with them.
I do think we tried to do stuff about that, which we'll talk about in a bit, about that to deal with their physicality, because we're not going to beat them strength wise. They're all like 6'6".
Yeah. I mean, the keeper's 6'6". Billings, I thought Billing was their best player last night on a footballing level. I thought he was very good in their midfield, but obviously we've had he's played against us before for Bournemouth and Huddersfield.
I was actually thinking that's two games this season we've played against Philip Billing, and he's not scored against us, which must be a record for us.
But it's just we'll talk about it more in detail. But we had a lot of the ball, but our decision making when it mattered, it was so off last night, and hence why we're 1-0 down in the tie.
So we'll start with the lineups, which saw 3 changes. I want to talk about that as well because I've been banging on about making lots of changes all season. So we had Sells in goal. We had Ola Aina we'll talk about the formation as well. We had Ola Aina, Jaya Cunha, Morato and Murillo across the back. Dominguez and Anderson behind Amari Hutchinson, Morgan Gibbs-White and Callum Hudson-Odoi with Igor Jesus up front. On paper, it was published as a 4-2-3-1. During the actual game, I don't think it was. Murillo's sort of left back. Ola was basically doing a Zinchenko and playing like an inverted wing-back role. He was at number 10 a lot of the time. It was very fluid at times. There was a point where Milenkovic and Ola Aina were our 2 players that were the furthest forward.
Yeah, I mean, I was a bit surprised Morato played last night because he's been ousted a bit, hasn't he, by Pereira? And you're thinking, doesn't he fancy him? Then he brought him back into the fold.
I suppose he's strong though, I suppose, but not fast, but strong.
So, but you want I can put Morato from Morato's standards wasn't bad, but there was a tendency last night where he tends to let the ball bounce a lot. And it just puts him on the back foot. But like I said, he wasn't the reason why we lost the game last night.
And anyway, the starting lineup was kind of went out the window within like 5 minutes or so. I didn't see what happened. I just saw that Jaya Cunha was on the ground. Apparently, he's twisted his ankle or something, but he was replaced by Milenkovic before 10 minutes were up. Which I mean, Midtjylland had already put their physicality on the line, and I was thinking that, and the ref had let a few things go. Again, we'll talk about him in a bit, but I was thinking maybe they've done him, and the ref letting stuff go has done it. But apparently, it was just he's fallen funny.
Yeah, it's one of those, when nobody's around him kind of thing. You kind of think, it's. So we'll have to see what happens because I thought he played really well against Man City and he deserved his chance of obviously starting again. And he looks pretty comfortable with the ball and everything. So yeah, it's a bit gutting for him if it is a long-term injury.
Also, he's been one of the players I've really been looking forward to seeing. So I'm glad that he's got into the side. But well, anyway, so in the first half, the first thing that happened of note was that man Philip Billing put in like a deep cross. Their player headed it. I was screaming handball because I'm sure it hit his arm, and then I think it was Murillo cleared it off the line. So first strike to them.
Yeah, I think it wasn't going in from the camera angle. Looking at the highlights before we started recording this, it's not going in. But like, you just don't know in Murillo's instance. So like, first thing he's done is like cleared it away. But yeah, it just shows them that they were coming here and tried to play a bit. But then obviously we got a bit of control and started seeing more of the ball and everything.
Yeah,
And then yeah, the chance of what we did make in the first half, we did make the keeper work. But having said that, there were routine saves which we'll talk a bit more
yeah,
about in
yeah.
a minute.
Yeah, I could just run through the highlights as it were. So again, as I said, we were kind of formationless in the first half, and both Ola Aina ending up at number 10 and Hutchinson was playing at number 10, which, as you mentioned before we started recording, that seemed to annoy Morgan quite a bit. But there was a point where Jesus sort of played Hutchinson in and he hit the shot from distance. It was a decent shot, but it was a relatively comfortable save for their keeper. There was a bit where Ola plays it through to Hutchinson. I think Hutchinson played it to Morgan, who gave it back to Ola, who then had a shot again from quite a bit of distance. Rebound falls to Jesus, but the keeper does really well to come across, and Jesus can only put it wide. There was Callum, I think, played Morgan, who then spills it to Elliot, who has a shot from distance again. That was saved again, an acrobatic one from the keeper. Jesus had a head, I think, from a corner, had a header that was cleared by their player off the line, so one apiece on that front. And then in the first half, there was a Morgan Gibbs White shot that was kind of deflected and went wide. So, the thing that I really noticed was we were shooting from distance a lot.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was a really greasy surface because obviously the weather last night was biblical. I've never seen the weather like that. So I was sitting up at Bridgeford and the rain has never blown in because the overhang of the roof is obviously quite a long distance from the back to the front of the stand. But yeah, it was like I think I've just about dried out after walking to the car last night. But yeah, it's like it's one of those, isn't it? If you don't have a shot, you don't know. But the shots what we did have. I mean, the one from Olaina, there was a bit of deflection, and obviously the keeper shoveled it away to Jesus, and obviously he couldn't get in the rebound. But yeah, the Anderson shot and the Hutchinson shot, they're pretty routine for a goalkeeper who's played in Europa League. So, so yeah, I mean, I think the common theme last night is that we had a lot of the ball, we got into some decent positions, but decision making last night it was well off, and hence why we're trailing in the tie.
Yep. Um, we get to half time. Morato. I'll just talk a little bit about Morato because everyone seems to hate him at the moment. I don't think he's as bad as everyone makes out, but there were a couple of heart-stopping moments, as there always are with him. There was one point where I can't remember who it was. One of their players, he just hesitates every now and then, and the player gets round him, and he's not the fastest, so he can't recover. And then there was another one where their player was blatantly offside and a long ball comes over the top, and Morato pauses with his arm in the air. But of course, linesmen aren't allowed to flag straight away.
Yeah,
So he's running through on goal. So if the linesman had chosen not to give it, if Morato had got that line wrong, then he'd let him through. But luckily, the linesman did flag.
yeah, because you just don't know if somebody's dropped in behind him. You just don't
Yeah.
know. And as they say, at any level, play to the whistle. He
Yeah.
didn't, and I'm like thinking, what are you doing? And thankfully, the flag went up. But sometimes if that referee doesn't, so if the linesman doesn't think it's a offside and play on, and you just don't know because of what's around you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Unless he's got a call, that's the only thing I can think of that leave it is offside kind of thing. But yeah, it's one of those. You just play to the whistle, then obviously deal with it after.
And
But
especially
yeah,
even if it goes to VAR and the whole thing about like, oh yeah, the defender's nose is keeping him on side or
yeah.
whatever.
But it's like he let the ball bounce, didn't he? For the one that was well, somewhat cleared off the line by Murillo in the first half. He's let that bounce, hasn't he? Because Billings
Mm.
got around the back of him. So yeah, in those moments, like I think let's be honest, he's our like what fourth choice centre half on
Yeah.
current form. I know he's going to go up the pecking order if Shai Kunya's out, but yeah, it's Milenkovic, Murillo, Shai Kunya on form.
Yeah.
But yeah, Morata's got too much of a ricket in him, to be honest. And like you says, his hesitancy puts him in real peril at times.
In the second half, Morato comes off. I'm assuming this was a tactical thing, and Nico comes on because Murillo had been playing left back. He was doing all right. It wasn't like the other week where he was having an absolute mare at left back, but obviously he's much more comfortable in the centre. And Nico gave us a lot more drive and purpose and a bit more control of the ball. So we were playing much more of a sort of standard kind of formation. In fact, if we had to have a formation in the first half, I'd have said it was like a 5-3, 5-2-3, where Callum was ending up playing as the sort of left wing back, which is a waste of his talents and also kind of scary because he's not the best defensively. And with Nico coming on, we kind of went to a back four and we had much more control of the ball and we looked like we knew what we were doing a little better. Um, so I'm pretty sure that was a tactical change. He was just trying to like put a bit of muscle on the back line to keep Midtjylland out of the game for the first half and then try and take it to them in the second half.
Yeah, but I just think when we got into some like really good positions, we just haven't got a natural goal scorer. Like, whilst Chris Wood's out, I mean, Igor Jesus, for how good he's been in Europe, he's not a natural goal scorer. Obviously, those limitations have been noted in the Premier League with just 2 goals in his Premier League appearances. Luca, I don't think he looks suited to our play or yeah,
I've said this before, is like the problem is we're in dire straits. And if you remember when Chris Wood came in, everyone was like, he's awful. He's not the right player for us.
yeah,
And it took him 6 months to get up to speed with how we wanted him to play and Nuno to sort of start changing things around him. Luke has come in from the Italian league, which is much slower, and
yeah. But to be
yeah,
yeah,
we need him to score straight away.
but to be honest, that the difference is that I know it was on initial loan, wasn't it, for Chris Wood? Then obviously, if you, was it like if you played
It was
three
three
games, it's like
games, yeah,
so you can pretty much say he was a permanent signing. You knew that
yeah,
obligation was going to be made. With Luca, he's going to go back to Italy at the end of the season, isn't he? It's only a stopgap, so we're not going to like
change out,
redesign the
yeah.
team for him. Kind of thing. It's just not going to happen. So, but like says is, I
I
mean,
mean, it was the wrong signing for where we're at. Definitely.
yeah,
I still. Anyway, that's by the by.
yeah,
For now, we'll come back to that later. Again, we made chances or sort of chances. There was a really good bit where Jesus played a little back heel to release Morgan Gibbs White, who played it to Hutchinson. Hutchinson had a really bad first touch and took it very wide, and I thought, oh, this chance has gone now. But he played it, he sort of cut it back. It gets to Ola Aina. Ola Aina wellies it. Morgan Gibbs White tries to jump out of the way, but Ola just hits Morgan instead.
yeah. When you're like struggling, I know we scored 2 against Man City last week, but when you're struggling to score goals, yeah, things like that don't go your
Yeah.
way. But yeah, there was another chance. I think it was it Hudson Doyle come down our left, and basically he's played the ball in, and Hutchinson's tried to flick it towards Morgan. But what he's done is he's took the pace off the ball. So when it gets
Yeah.
to Morgan, Morgan can't do anything with it. And I'm like thinking, well, if you're not going to take it, just like dummy it kind of thing. You don't need to like be all elaborate, complicate things. And it just basically noticed up the chance, didn't it? And you just think, just decision making in the final third,
Yeah.
we just can't do it at the moment. Hence why we're not scoring the goals.
On top, yeah. So there was another one where Callum plays it to Nico Dominguez, who I thought had a pretty decent game. Again, this is another long shot, and he wellies it wide. At this point, as you said earlier, the rain's kind of turned biblical. I've never had it where, because I sit in the Brian Clough lower, and so when it rains, most of the time I'm all right,
Yeah,
but, but you get a bit wet. Whereas this time it was like the rain was coming from random directions. It was suddenly coming in behind me and all sorts of stuff.
yeah,
And I immediately started thinking of that Spurs game with the Anson Kinski one. where I mean, our pitch was nowhere near as bad as theirs was, but
Yeah.
if you watched any of that game, all the players on both sides were just falling over constantly, and all the mistakes came from people falling over.
Mm.
And I was thinking, this is playing into Midtjylland's hands here.
Yeah, I know Forest a couple of years ago paid a few million for that pitch, didn't they? And I know it takes for the drainage, it takes hell of a lot of water, and it needs a hell of a lot of water for it obviously to work. But on the far side of the where the main stand is, the ball there was standing water. The ball was
Hmm.
not running, and even in the penalty spot on
Yeah, there was a
Midtjylland's
point
goal,
where someone played a pass into the towards the penalty spot, and you could see the ball just slow down as it hits this puddle.
yeah, yeah. I mean, Hutchinson said on his interview, he says, "This is the epitome of the modern day football." He says the rain was so bad, my face cream was like running into my eyes. I'm like thinking, Jesus Christ. But yeah, that's modern day footballer problem, isn't it? But yeah, there was one where he tried to take the ball and the ball was held up, and he had to come back on him, go back and retrieve it, but just held up. Um, so yeah, I would have thought that the referee would have like possibly paused play so they can come and the groundsman can come on the pitch and like just fork the areas where there was standing water to just like drain it away. But yeah, it was just like it wasn't great, but I'm not making excuses because if it wasn't great for us, it wasn't great for Midtjylland as well. They still had to play in it.
Yeah.
But I did think for a period that when it was really bad right on the hour mark, that Forest played better than they did at any point. But then when it started to obviously the weather to get normal again, i.e., not as windy or whatever, or blowing in, yeah, Forest just like reverted back to like crap
Yeah.
decision making. So
I mean, and it wasn't all one-way traffic for us either. One of the subs came on. I think it was the guy who scored the third counter-attacking goal earlier in the season, and he had a shot like from very long distance. Um, I think Sells saved that one, and then that went out for a corner, bobbles around a load, comes out. The same guy has another shot from distance, but that hit the bar. So little warning signs there. And then this is the one that everyone's talking about. Elliot Anderson, I think it was Morgan that plays him in, comes in from the left-hand side, does his little drinking runs, does a trick to turn the defender, but in doing so, he comes back off his left foot and onto his right foot. And then when he places a shot, because it's his wrong foot, it just rolls to the keeper.
yeah, he should have just put his foot through that. And for footballers who play with a football week in week out, and I've got that quality, surely they can just put head down, put the foot through it, and even if he doesn't get it off the ground, I think it will just like glide off the surface and
Yeah.
hopefully in. Or the keeper's got to make a really
Or
good
to
save. But
get a rebound or something. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And but yeah, it's just like a bit of shot, isn't it? It's just
Yeah.
like it doesn't really. It's like a back pass, and so many times this season we've done that. I mean, Hudson-Odoi was guilty of it a few games ago, where he's like he got himself into a really good position. You wanted him to do his trademark Hudson-Odoi, whip it in the opposite, well, the far corner, and he doesn't. He tries to do the keeper on the near post and everything. You just put your foot through it. It's just there was one where Hutchinson like gave up the chance of not. I'm like, just put your foot through it. And
Mhm.
I think Steve Hodge, I'll talk about him in a second. Steve Hodge, he says, "Oh, you just didn't have like the confidence to do it." I'm like thinking, just put your foot through it. And again, it's decision making. But yeah, going on to Steve Hodge, I listened to his post match in the car driving home. And he basically, I couldn't believe it at the time. With all the turmoil we've had regarding managers this season, he turned around and says, "Oh, if Pereira doesn't get a win on Sunday, I can see him getting the sack." I'm like thinking, what have we become? Have I really just listened to that? Is someone that sprinkled some angel dust on his half-time pie or something? I like Steve Hodge. He's a very good summariser because obviously he's played the game at the highest level. He's been to the World Cup in '86 and obviously got Maradona's shirt, which he's made a few
Yeah.
bob on, but. I'm not thinking, Steve. I think you've had. I think
He's,
someone
he's
sprinkled
very,
some.
very negative at the moment. I was listening to him and the
Yeah,
other week as well. I was listening to him and he thinks we're down already.
yeah,
And we're certainly going to struggle in the Europa League because they had a very, very deep cross from the right wing. It comes across and Ola Aina just switches off, and their man comes goal side of him and just puts it in.
Yeah, he was set in concrete, wasn't he? And he
Yeah.
does nothing. He's like giving like a little nudge, but I mean, he's got still got a lot to do on the header. I mean, what 16 yards out, he's putting it right in the corner. Sells isn't saving it. But I think certain players, if they've got no credit in the bank, a lot of Forest fans say should never play again.
Hmm.
Backward, for instance, when he come on against Brighton, should never play again, should never wear the Forest shirt. But there's certain players who've got a bit of credit in the bank, like your Hudson Odois and Iners, and nobody calls it out. But Iner, I think, he was all right against Man City, but in other games, he's been honking. He's been really. He seems to be like half cooked, like his decision making, not reacting to things, and I mean, against Liverpool, I know it was disallowed, but I mean, what he tried to do, and it's just like, just get it clear. But he waited and waited, and then obviously gave that opportunity for McAllister to come on to him. And obviously, once he's booted the ball, it's not going to go anywhere but hit McAllister. Fortunately, in that moment, I know that they'd score the goal a few minutes later, but it hit his arm and it was disallowed. But I'm like thinking, his decision making, his like awareness of what's around him, and like that was crap last night. If I know they're not in the same league, but like if let's say for someone, I'll tell you who's good at this, Louis Jean on the back post, who's very good. Once the ball comes over, he was like clearing it, but like getting in front of his man. But
Hmm.
Aina does nothing, and he's just like what? And I think I know we haven't seen much of Luca Nets, but I don't know whether Aina, because he's played a lot of football, hasn't he, since he
Yeah.
come back from injury, because he's played that game against Villa at the start of January. I think he just I know it's very hard at the moment because obviously we've got really important games coming up, i.e., Fulham on Sunday. But I just think he needs to sit out and just try and play Nico Williams at right back, Luca Nets at left back. Because when Luca Nets come on against Brighton, look quite comfortable.
Hmm.
But yeah, I just
But I
think,
have more worries about Nico at right back now.
yeah, I know what you're saying, because he's like more comfortable at left back. I mean, can you remember when Danny Fox, when he played at left back, when he was a natural left back, he was awful. Put him at centre half, he was pretty decent.
Yeah.
So I get where you're coming from on that front, but yeah, I just think Einer's, yeah, he hasn't been great for the last. He hasn't been his old self.
No.
Let's say.
Yeah, we can talk about that in a bit because I mean, we the subs came on. We had Luca replacing Jesus. Um, Not really much to say about him.
No, I think with Luca, I don't think it was kind of like, this is going to sound a bit of an odd thing to say. I don't think it was anything to do about how he was playing last night. I think it was the fact that obviously we've only got them two strikers. He doesn't really fancy Luca because obviously there's been rumours in the press that Pereira doesn't fancy him, but
Yeah,
it's kind of like needs must last night. Like, we've got to get him on the pitch because I need Igor fresh and ready for
yeah,
Sunday, and that's what it is. And obviously we haven't got a one in the Europa squad, have we?
and that game
So
was built for him.
yeah, exactly. Or Kalimawendo.
Yep.
But obviously, yeah, the dinosaur or Dinosaur, if you want to call him, obviously didn't think he was good enough, so we got Luca in. And I mean, obviously, we've talked about this in Football Terrace, but the recruitment's been this season's been crap, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And you brought a striker in who looked like he can't cut the scampi at the City Ground, can he? And then a couple of games later, you've sacked the manager who wanted a striker of that profile. It's just a bloody mess, isn't it? And I do worry about even against Midtjylland. With they're not a great footballing side, but we've mentioned earlier about physicality. But we didn't really cut them open in terms of like we haven't peppered their goal in the like their keeper hasn't had to do overtime. This against
Mm.
Midtjylland, who the the Danish Super League or whatever you want to call it, it's not as strong as the Premier League. And if we
Mm.
can't score against Midtjylland, we're going to have problems against Fulham and Spurs in the next two Premier League games, where we definitely need to get some out those two games to give us a chance of surviving this season. And it's very concerning.
Just on the subs, who else was there? Backward came on for Ola right at the end. There was groans all around me, but I thought he did all right actually, for what he was there for. In fact, and he made a chance for Elliot Anderson towards the end, which got deflected into the side netting. Sangare came on for Dominguez. There was two times where there was a high ball and the wind caught it just before Sangare got to it.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah. I
again,
mean, fans around us, oh, what are you doing, Sangai? But uh, the only way I can compare last night's, if anybody's played, they haven't got the pitches there anymore. If anybody's played the Colic race course in the middle of those pitches, and you kick the ball and the ball is like ends up behind you when you try to play it down the
yeah,
line. And that's how it was last night. But yeah, when the ball's like swirling in the air, and you're trying to judge it and coming out of the floodlights and things like that. I'm not making excuses for the players because it was the same for both sides, but yeah, it's not easy and kind of thing. But and going back with what you just said about backward moans and groans, it pisses me off with Forest fans. I mean, yeah, okay, granted, he hasn't been great, but how the bloody hell is he meant to feel confident about himself
mm,
when he's stepping on the pitch and you've got like what 20 odd thousand against him?
yeah,
If you're going to work today and and everybody's having a go at you saying, "Oh, you're crap," and it plants a seed in your head, and you haven't got
yeah,
that confidence to like express yourself. Backwards going to be the same, and because it's in front of what 30,000 people. I mean, people say, "Oh, yeah, you're getting paid this, that, and the other." Yeah, but he's still at the end of the day, he's still human
he's a
being.
21-year-old.
Exactly, and if you're going to batter somebody, he's not going to express himself. He's going to take the easy route. He's not
Mm,
going to take on his man. And when he did come on, I think he did ask questions of the fullback.
yeah,
Obviously, the decision making, oh, not so much the decision making, but when the ball comes in, ball players weren't there and everything. And you just think, yeah, he's actually trying kind of thing. So, but yeah, just lay off him because why is he in a Forest shirt? Let's
yeah.
it's same with
Help him out.
Morato. I don't want Morato to play bad. I want Morato to play well for the good of Nottingham Forest. But come on, it's like we need to like. I mean, we did club together and obviously put pressure on the club to reduce the ticket prices, and we did get a full house where earlier in the week it looks like there was only going to be 15,000, would have been reminiscent of the
Mm,
Fawaz days. But while these players are on the pitch, come on, let's support them, kind of thing. Let them feel welcomed and that we want them here rather than absolutely berating them because they're not going to do anything while 20,000 are on the backs.
yeah, I mean, well, I mean, that shot by Anderson was the last sort of real chance that we got in the game. I think that was probably an injury time anyway. So we finished 1-0 to Midtjylland, a proper like smash and grab from them. As I say, I think they only had three chances in the entire game and took the points. But Vitor Pereira made the point that they were celebrating like they'd won it, and it's only half time. So 1-0 to Midtjylland at the final whistle. So the first thing we have to talk about is the referee.
He was bad. I can't. He's from Slovenia. I can't
Mm,
remember his name now. I did have his name last night, but yeah, he was really bad. There was one where the Anderson one. I'm like, what? You're just looking around thinking, how's he seeing that? Because there was one in the first half, and he gave it. The linesman who was closer to the play didn't. I'm like thinking, oh, then then there's a lot of times where we played the ball in Mitchell and like left one on his kind of thing, and nothing was said. No yellow card and everything. And I mean, Murato rightly got yellow card because obviously that was a cynical foul. But yeah, he was probably one of the worst referees we've seen in this Europa League campaign. He was really bad, and you expect like the creme de la creme, don't you?
yeah.
UEFA standard referees, but he was awful, really bad. And I don't know if the Slovenian league he's not going to get much controversy or there's not going to be much of a spotlight on him. But like last night, it was like right, I'm at the City Ground. It's all on me. It's all about me. And it was like the Slovenian Anthony Taylor last night, wasn't it?
It
Yeah, it was
was.
like
My thinking was because he's obviously seen that Midtjylland are big and strong, he knows that they play a very physical game. So anytime one of their players said they'd been pushed over or something, because our players were so weak in comparison, it must have been a foul.
yeah. There was a couple times. I mean, he's got like previous for this, hasn't he? Igor Jesus, where but there was one where the guy was all over him, and he's like his shirt pulled him, pushed him in the back. He goes over, and the referee's like telling him to get up. And it's like,
Yeah,
what more can you do to get a foul, kind of thing. So yeah, he was crap last night, the referee, but. That wasn't the reason why we lost the game of football last night.
no,
Effectively, we've lost. Yeah, how many games this season where we've basically lost a 0-0 game?
yeah,
There's plenty of them this season, and that's been our amongst other things. That's been one of the factors of our Achilles heel this year.
yeah. Another thing to mention, we had lots of corners and we persisted in playing them high into the box where their players were 6 inches taller than all of our players.
Yeah, I did joke last night. Like every time we get a corner, we may as well kick it out to play with. But we've already done that, haven't we? When
Yeah.
Hutchinson did it against Wolves a few weeks ago. So yeah, we've already done that. But there was one where in the second half, Anderson had a call at the Bridgeford end, and he's just like, there was no, he hasn't like whipped it in or anything. He's just like he's casually curled it in, and the goalkeeper is standing on his line, and the ball just comes into his midriff, and he didn't have to move. I'm like thinking, oh come on, I know the wind was bad last night. I get all of that, but I mean we tried to. It was in the first half. We tried a short corner. We nosed that up, didn't we? Set pieces. I mean, we got a bit better at defending them, but yeah, in an attacking sense, yeah, we're not great on them, are we? And it's like,
Then before we recorded, I read this article a few weeks ago about corners, and it was basically saying, yeah, a high corner, a long corner results in a goal 25% of the time. And it's like, not for us, it doesn't.
yeah, yeah, there's something we can't do, kind of thing. But I mean, next week in away at Midtjylland, we've got we've got to obviously got to do something. What we're finding hard to do at the moment, in that it's score the goal just to like obviously tie the tie kind of thing. But yeah, it's not over. I mean, I know they were celebrating last night because they would have wanted to go leave the City Ground with a draw.
Yeah,
They would have been well happy with a draw last night, and they've got a win.
yeah,
So they basically got one foot into the quarterfinals next, isn't it?
yeah.
Who we play if we get through, play either Stuttgart or Porto. But yeah, we've got a lot to do. I mean, I'm not like making an excuse, but the weather conditions will hopefully be a bit normal
Yeah.
compared to last night. But yeah, got it all to do. But I think our focus first and foremost is Sunday. We have to get a win. We
Yeah,
have to get a win. If we don't get a win, because Spurs play after us, don't they? They
yeah.
play Liverpool.
West Ham play the day before.
Yes.
Who was it? They've got Man City at theirs.
Yeah. It's pointless us expecting them to do something if we don't do our bit. We have to do
Absolutely,
our bit.
yeah,
We can't rely on other teams. And I mean, we've only got one win, haven't we? In something like 7 or 8
yeah.
games against Fulham. So we've got to turn up on Sunday. We really, unfortunately, I'm missing the game. I don't miss many, but yeah, I'm missing the game because it's my wife's first Mother's Day as a mum kind of thing. So I'm taking one for the team on Sunday. So hopefully,
So that'll get us the win then.
yeah, yeah. And like I said, I'll take the credit for not being
Yeah.
there, just to keep Forest in the Premier League. But then obviously we've got to do the job in if we want to go into the next round of the Europa League. We've got to turn up
Yeah.
against
And
Midtjylland
the
next week.
thing is, if it had been 0-0, then they would have had to come out at us at their place, and that would have played into our hands a bit, I think. Whereas now they just need to sit there
Yeah, they
like
do. They do.
eight 6'6" players just in the box. That's
Yeah,
all they need.
and I don't know what their record is at home. I presume it's going to be pretty decent,
Certainly in the
to be
Europa
honest.
League, it must be pretty good because they were quite
Yeah,
high up, weren't
and
they?
they're doing pretty well in the Danish Super League, aren't they? I
Hmm.
think they're well up there, and I'm sure they're on course. They could win the title, couldn't they? Because
Yeah.
I think Copenhagen have had a bit of a poor
Steve
season by
Hodge
their
was saying it's
standards.
it's a very narrow, small pitch in a small stadium. So again, just packing out the defence is going to be all they
Yeah,
need to do, really. So
yeah,
it's 0-0 would have been a much easier game for us
yeah,
away there,
definitely.
and
So we've got it all to do.
concentrate on Fulham at the weekend. We'll have a match report after that one. I'm going to that one. I'm not sitting out well, although I am actually really. I'm nervous. Well, obviously, Fulham are difficult for us, but also because of our home form and the atmosphere that it is. it's not negative, negative. I mean, yesterday was horrible. You touched on it. The cheap seats. I was surrounded by people who obviously didn't go, and they just spent the entire game moaning. And as you say, we're there to support the team, and it's not helping the players. And it's almost like we're getting to be better away than we are at home because of that.
Yeah, yeah, I get where you're coming from on that one. Yeah, the atmosphere last night was patchy at best, wasn't it? It was
Yeah,
like there's elements of the crowd, to, but
a lot of
yeah,
silence and a lot of moaning.
yeah. But having said that, there wasn't a lot on the pitch to get us up out of the seats. It's
No.
not like we've peppered the goal and things like that.
But then I'm thinking back to the Steve Cooper first season when we came up, and we were awful, but the noise was incredible, and that's what kept us going. So I don't know.
Yeah, we need to replicate that against
Yeah,
Fulham, but that's not going to be an easy game because they've got
yeah.
obviously the likes of Neil Smith Rowe, Raul Jimenez, Harry
Wilson's
Wilson,
back. Yep.
yeah,
And obviously,
and
Marco Silva probably wants to prove a point, although he
yeah,
wants to keep us up if he wants our job.
yeah, exactly. But even in midfield they're pretty strong, aren't they? With Sanderberger and
Yeah,
is it Sasalukic?
yeah,
He's
he's good. Yeah,
yeah, he's good. He is, and
and Berger always used to score against us. I think. No, that's
no,
someone else. Yeah.
he used to dominate Ryan Yates. Ryan Yates used to hate playing against him, even when he played for Sheffield United.
Mm,
He dominated. Then he went to Burnley and he dominated him. If you remember, because we got knocked out of the cup, didn't we?
yeah.
Early rounds in the second season of the Premier League and the Carabao Cup. So then defensively, they got Joachim Andersen, who's pretty decent, and obviously the goalkeeper is not bad.
Mm.
Is he's played for Germany. But if you're a German keeper, you're not going to play many games for Germany for Manuel Neuer.
Yeah.
So, but he's retired now. So, but yeah, it's going to be. We've got to win on Sunday, but it's going to be a tough game. It's not going to be. It's not a foregone conclusion that we're going to win it. So then, if we're winning, obviously it really sets it up for a week on Sunday against Spurs away,
Yeah.
doesn't it? But yeah, first and
I
foremost,
mean,
we've got to do our
no
bit.
matter what, I think Spurs away is a must win as well. And I'm kind of hoping they put in a decent performance against Liverpool,
Yeah,
but still lose because
yeah,
I
yeah.
want to keep that manager to stay.
Yeah, I said that last night to the lads around me. I said, what you need is a spirited 2-1 defeat at Liverpool. Keeps them in the job, thinking that they've turned the corner. That turn in the corner, yeah. And then obviously keep him in the job for. But they've got Atletico Madrid, haven't they? If they get
Yeah,
heavily beaten there, you never know. They could obviously pull the trigger after the Atletico Madrid game, and then
yeah.
I mean,
I mean, what
going off.
sort of position is this for us to be in, where we're speculating about another club's manager going
Yeah,
as the way of us staying up?
like I says, focus on Sunday now. We have to win that game.
Yep, and of course we'll have a report after that one. We'll have Yates' Espresso Bar, Midtjylland report, and then the Spurs report, and then it's a little bit of a break, and hopefully we might just have a little bit of clearance by then, but who knows? Come on, you Reds.